What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. Today is Mailbag Monday.
Mailbag.
That's a good one, Breech.
That was a great one.
If you have a question you would like to ask us for a future mailbag, you can do so by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can ask us anything. It can be about football, fantasy football, golf, parenting. Debo, you want to ask Debo a question? Like,
questions about the NBA, hip hop, the show Dave on Hulu. He knows a lot about that.
I need to start watching Dave again. First 2 episodes were good.
Yeah, they were good.
And while you're doing stuff, 2 more things to hit up at you. I need your favor. I need you guys to hook it up. You guys are podcast listeners, are always loyal. Whenever we ask you to do something, you're great about it. So do first, right now, youtube.com/pick6. If you do that and you go there and you hit the subscribe button, it will benefit all of us greatly. And you can watch all of our shows on YouTube if you want. And once you subscribe, if you have a smart TV, by the way, you can fire up your YouTube app and actually watch the podcast on TV, which sounds a little narcissistic to think that you would do that to like put us on your television during the day. But I found that it's actually kind of enjoyable. I do that with a bunch of fantasy golf pods, like my Pat Mayo, Rick Gelman, who does the First Cut podcast as well. I just found that like it's kind of a nice thing to have on TV rather than just like some, sports in a rerun or something like that. Or, you could watch HQ too, I guess, which I could promote.
Brinson, do you just watch it so you can stare at yourself?
Yes.
There's 100% chance that if Brinson came around, there are at least 3 Brinson portraits that he stares at while he does his show.
And one more favor. The People's Choice Podcast Awards. We never started talking about these podcast awards a lot. We are up for a nomination, and they count fan votes through the end of July. It takes less than a minute. I'm not even kidding. It's really easy. You can go to the link in the description of this podcast and click on it, and you can register on that site, and you don't have to like verify it or anything. You just register, and immediately rolls you into a nomination page, and you can select People's Choice, drop down and hit the find Pick 6. It's on there. It's alphabetical order. And then sports. And sports is even more important because we're probably not going to win like the number 1 People's Choice category. So if you really just don't want to take a full minute.
Not with that kind of confidence.
I know, right?
I mean, it's literally every podcast that's nominated. Did you hear the stats? Did you hear Debo say how many podcasts are new per day? It's like 90,000.
They're not on this list, though.
Okay. Do both.
With that attitude, Brinson, I just think you need to have a better attitude about this. Everyone, we're going to win, and we need your vote to pull it off.
If we win the, I don't know that you want us to win the People's Choice Podcast Award. I will be the most insufferable human being on the planet for the next 9 to 12 months if we win the People's Podcast. Okay.
How will that change from the past 9 to 12 months?
I will be the second most insufferable person on the planet if we win the People's Choice Podcast Award for the number 1 overall podcast. And of course, you know who I'm talking about at number 1. Mm-hmm. Sean Wagner. Okay, so let's get Spanky Wankman. That's right, Ryan. Link in the description. Check it out. Do that, and then subscribe to YouTube. 2, it's really easy. It will take you less than 5 minutes, and if we get some momentum going on those, it will be positive for everybody involved. Because Debo, really, they're talking about Cannon Debo, and we need to save his job.
Jesus. He should be the last one to go, if we're being honest about it.
Oh, he will be. Ooh, maybe somebody could leave a 5-star review and ask who gets fired in order. What's the order of people being fired off this podcast?
Maybe we could even make a new hire as hinted in this first question.
Well, let's talk about it. Great job, dude. Good segue. New super friend, and thank you, Wilson. This is from mmart6767. A few weeks ago, I called Wilson out for being narcissistic with his football takes during draft season. I did not want to be reactionary in my apology and waited to see if his return to the Wilson I enjoyed over the last few years was consistent. I'm happy to say that the king has returned. What is this nonsense? I want to apologize and thank Ryan Wilson for addressing this and giving very understandable reasons for why he was so short with people. At the height of the quarantine, I definitely was not as patient with people as I'd like to be, and I was only working 60-hour weeks at that point. But that's only working 60-hour weeks. That's a lot of hours.
I will brag.
Yeah. Can't imagine if I was working until 3 a.m. only to get up and do it the next day. You don't have to read this next part on air, but if he's ever in Houston area and wanted to grab a beer on me, say so on the pod.
I would like to go grab a beer on you if I'm in the Houston area. I was supposed to be in Houston in March. It didn't work out because of the pandemic, but hopefully if I'm there next spring, we'll make that happen.com.
There's a great brewery. What?
I think you get called out later because you messed up the brewery in Portland, Maine. So make sure you get
we'll talk about that in a minute. That's just because I butcher all names. St. Arnold Brewing Company in Houston is really good. They have awesome beer.
Oh, were you there for Super Bowl?
Yep.
All right. Anyway.
I don't have a Twitter, but listen every day and can have my wife DM you. Do it.
Oh, what are you
Slide him in those DMs, Wilson. Yeah, shoot him a DM. So glad to welcome back my favorite podcaster. Short question is, are you looking for a new super friend? Long shot here. Get it, Sean? Nice. Mike Golick Sr. just got canned from 20 years of ESPN radio and would fit in great with y'all's don't take yourself too seriously vibe. Would be awesome to have him be a regular.
Let me say this quickly. I'll play Brinson, you play Mike Golick Jr., and I'll be your agent. Hey, Mike, we got a call from
it's senior, not junior.
Senior, yeah, I'll be your agent. Mike, we got a call from the Pick Six podcast. They want you to be a part of it.
What the hell are you talking about, man?
No, it's a podcast. They do these things. It's not on air. You won't be on television anymore. Not even radio.
You'll be on YouTube.
You're on YouTube. What do you?
This is Mike Golick Senior, right?
Yeah, right.
You know, I played professional football and then spent 20 years at the #1 ESPN radio show. I'm worth tens of millions of dollars.
It gets better though. This guy named Will Brinson. He's really big in Raleigh, North Carolina.
What?
He's a host. You wouldn't be a host. You would be a super friend.
What? What the hell is a super friend?
I know, right? Can you imagine?
I mean, am I the only super friend? What's going on?
No. There's this guy who's a robot and loves the Cowboys. His name's John Breech. And this other guy, Wilson, who's incredibly handsome and smart, but I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work.
I think I'm going to pass on this one. So I'd be super friend. I'd be the fourth super friend.
Replacing a guy who was so terrible at his job, he quit to go to law school.
Hard pass. First of all, I like Mike Golick a lot. I don't know Senior personally, but I like the Golicks in general, and I think you probably got a raw deal. We don't need to comment about ESPN radio lineups or ESPN personality, so we'll just move on. But suffice to say,
Mike Golick he's awesome. He seems like a genuinely nice guy. I don't know if he would be super pumped about doing the Big Six podcast.
No, I wasn't. I mean, we were joking. We were having a goof, but my Mike Golick reaction is definitely how he would react. Hey, Mike, we want you to replace a 27-year-old kid who left to go to law school and be the fourth man on this podcast every day. And you'll be on YouTube.com/Pick6.
I do want to say, as the producer here, I won't comment on whether we are or are not having Super Friend auditions, but I will say if we do, Pete Prisco is not a shoo-in. He has to audition.
Very nice, Devo. You know what? All right, we haven't played in this podcast yet.
But let me just say quickly to MMart6767, thank you for getting back to me. I'm glad that I'm not being a jerk anymore. I think Breech and Brinson both pointed this out at the time. I was just exhausted. I didn't realize it, but now. And I will take you up on that beer in Houston should I get there.
So have your wife DM Ryan Wilson.
That's a prank.
Tell your wife to DM Mike Golick Sr. too. Let's just go all out here.
What happened?
Hey, Mike, are you interested in joining the Pick Six podcast?
Who are you?
What?
I'm a listener's wife.
Packers Delusion from Chris D. Halm 12 on Apple Podcast. Packers currently have the 8th best odds to win the NFC in 2020. I think it's actually they have the 8th best Super Bowl odds, but the 5th best odds to win the NFC, just as a point of clarification for Chris. But his point remains. This is a team that lost just one impactful starter, Brian Bulaga, and they have many young stars, Jair Alexander, Kenny Clark, David Bakhtiari, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams. He just put the last name, so I was trying to come up with them. Not to mention year 2 of Rodgers in the system, Matt Ryan 2016 vibes. Okay, let's settle down. Why do betting markets, national media hate the Packers so much right now?
We should call Spanky for his thoughts on this.
Or we could just ask Matt LaFleur.
All right, Matt.
Well, guys, as the one person on this podcast who predicted that the Packers would make it to the NFC Championship game last year, yes, I get paid every time I mention that. I don't have an issue with the odds. I think I do somewhat agree with the opinion that maybe the Packers got a little bit lucky last year. But if you go down the odds, and we'll do the NFC odds since he specifically mentioned the NFC odds. If you go down those, you look at who's number one. The 49ers are number one. Well, you know what? The 49ers stomped the Packers twice last year. Those games weren't close at all. I do not think the Packers have done anything to close the gap with the 49ers. I think they are a way worse team than the 49ers. You have the Saints. If those teams were playing tomorrow on a neutral field, I would bet everything on the Saints. Of course, I've been wrong before. I'm surprised Brinson doesn't have the audio of me saying that there's no way the Saints can beat the Seahawks. The Buccaneers. I think the Packers have struggled against the Buccaneers. And then I think here's where we get the interesting numbers. The two teams ahead of the Packers are the Cowboys and Eagles, and that one just comes down to who do you think is going to win the NFC East. You're basically betting on the team to win the NFC East because then that team is going to get a home playoff game. So I understand why they do. And then they're also tied with the Seahawks, which may be a little dicey, but I like where they are. I think it makes sense. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Packers, and you can go if you want, Ryan, I can.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say that the Packers 13-3 last year is great. Their expected win-loss was 9.7. Their expected win total based on their point differential, and that's the Pythagorean theorem. That is a major, major, major red flag for a team that could regress. Now, having said that, they could still regress and win 10 games. I don't know. The Matt Ryan 2016, I sort of shrugged that off as I was reading the question, so I apologize for being snarky and dismissing it. But I'm not buying into that Matt LaFleur is Kyle Shanahan. And that was the theme with Matt Ryan in 2016 and winning.
Anyone buying into that?
I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be in the MVP conversation at all. Matt
Ryan
Ryan won the MVP in 2016.
Yeah, and Matt Ryan was in his prime, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be 37, I think, right? If he hadn't already turned that age. They got to play – did they play the NFC East last year? They did. That is rather beneficial for them. And they went 3-1, the Packers did, against that crappy division. So they're not going to play them this year. They have a much more difficult schedule, I think, this season. I wouldn't sleep on the Balaga loss, especially with as much as they want to run the football. And I don't know that I like the decision to go get Jordan Love, which we've covered ad nauseum on here, and not add any weapons for Aaron Rodgers. I think he's facing a lack of weaponry surrounding him. Now, Jay Sternberger might break out, and I don't disagree with the defensive players. Mike Pettin has done a good job with the defense. I just think it's hard to see the Packers being in the elite tier of NFC teams.
Huh. I feel like 11 wins feels about right.
I mean, they win 11 games and they're in the elite tier. I think it's more like 9.
I agree. I think most of this is going to be because the defense improves incrementally, but also mostly because Aaron Rodgers plays angry.
Good question from Debo here. How much does that negative press surrounding Debo asking mailbag questions too, surrounding Jordan Love affect their betting markets? They have had they've had a bad offseason.
If you hear all these things bad about the Packers and how they haven't done anything good, and your last memory of them on the field is getting blasted by the 49ers, that's going to affect, if there's not money coming in, they're going to slide the Packers down amongst those NFC teams.
I agree with you completely. And one other thing that sort of stands out to me with the Packers, and is a concern, especially when you talk about being an NFC elite team. We talked about this last year. They struggled against the 49ers, Chargers, and Seahawks in terms of producing offense. They eventually got to 28 points against the Seahawks, but they didn't look very good in the playoffs. All three of those teams run some variation of Pete Carroll's cover 3 defense, either via Robert Saleh or former Gus Bradley for the Chargers. And I just wonder if some teams might pick up on how that could affect Matt LaFleur's offense, and if we see them struggle a little bit. If they don't run the ball effectively, I don't think they'll be a very outstanding offensive team. But, maybe I'm wrong.
They should be able to run the ball effectively, though. They got Aaron Jones. They got A.J. Dillon.
And Jamal Williams.
Okay.
Are we just all down on the Packers?
No, I said
11 wins. All right.
11 wins. What's the over-under? Vegas.
Debo will tell us in a second. He has it up.
Well, Ryan, you say you're
Another Ryan Wilson question.
high on the Packers.
9.
But
9. Wow.
Would you take the over 9? I wouldn't.
Really?
I mean, that's not a lot of room for error. 9 wins is just a lot for any team.
9-7 is what their Pythagorean. What is it? Say it.
Pythagorean theorem. 9.7. So 9.7, 6, and 6.3.
What are we going to say, Breech?
do you think that the Packers have a realistic chance of getting in the Super Bowl? Because this guy seems upset that they're not in the Super Bowl conversation.
I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. They literally did nothing.
So we have been all bit with the Packers delusion.
I'm going all in, not on analytics. I'm going all in on Aaron Rodgers, like him playing angry. That's all I'm going on.
The other thing, too, is if you count the playoffs last year, so the Packers had 18 games total, 9-1 in one-score games.
Ooh.
9-1 in one-score games, and a negative and a point differential that reeks of coming back to earth. I think those are probably the factors. It was like they were like just a 13-3 team that went to the NFC Championship game. Like, not to take away their credit, but it's like it didn't feel like they had the pop of the record and what they ended up.
So over/under's 9. It sounds like Brinson's not crazy about the over. I'm guessing Breech isn't either. On Friday's podcast, you two jabronis were talking about perhaps the Lions going 8-8. What are the odds that the Lions finish better than the Packers?
You tell me what the odds are, and I'll tell you if I'd bet them. Because you know what? The Lions could have beaten the Packers twice last year. They lost by a field goal, and they lost another game by a point. The Packers actually –
by the refs.
In one of the games, the Packers didn't lead the Lions during a single second in either of those games. Both field goals.
What are the
odds?
odds?
The Lions – the Packers are the favorite to win the division at plus 140. Vikings – I mean, they're not being, like, crapped on here. I mean, they're still – the Vikings are plus 150. Bears 4.5 to 1. Lions 8.5 to 1. Like, I would rather bet on the Lions at 8.5 to 1 than the Packers at plus 140.
To win the division?
Yeah.
Breech?
The Packers or the Lions lost 8 one-score games. They had to play half the season without Matthew Stafford.
1-score games is really
and the Lions were the flip of that because they lost 8 one-score games.
Two of them were to the Packers.
And 2 of them were to the Packers. So, I mean, if you flip those, all of a sudden you have a completely, the Packers are 11-5, the Lions are 5-1, 5-10-1.
2 words.
The Lions are a 5-win team, baby.
I think the Lions are going to be better than most people expect. I think the Packers are going to be worse.
2 words would change my opinion of the Lions. You know what those 2 words are?
Fire Patricia.
Jim Caldwell.
Moving along. Super Friends. Do you think DeAndre Hopkins will digress from last year? Because he is part of arguably the best receiving core in the NFL. Jonathan, walking creeper. He's back. We answered a DeAndre Hopkins question earlier this offseason. I don't know why there's so much DeAndre Hopkins chatter. I guess because he's with the new team. He is definitely not with the best receiving core in the NFL. And I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay might have an argument.
Like, who's the Chris Godwin here? Like Larry Fitzgerald? I don't think so.
Christian Kirk.
What do you hate on Christian Kirk for, Brinson?
I love Christian Kirk.
Apparently not a lot.
I mean, are you suggesting that Christian Kirk is going to have a Chris Godwin-like season?
I'm suggesting you're breaking Jonathan's heart by saying that the Cardinals don't have the best receiving core in the NFL.
I'm not trying to be a b-hole here, but Chris Godwin had 86 catches for 1,333 yards and 9 touchdowns last year. Christian Kirk in his career has 111 catches for 1,299 yards and 6 touchdowns. So
Breech really making the case that they're the same.
I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to have a huge year.
I mean, he had a huge year with Brock Osweiler and Tom Savage throwing the ball.
I think he'll have a very good year. I don't think he'll have
Do you think he tops his numbers from last year? 104 receptions, 1165 yards, 7 touchdowns.
I'll say yes, but I think those are all very good over-unders. I think his targets will be lower, but his numbers will be similar.
Yeah, I mean, those numbers were pretty crazy last year. He could actually go under all those numbers and still have a really productive year.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll answer a couple more questions. Okay. This is a tough one. It's a great question. This is the kind of questions that we appreciate from our listeners. Probably should have prepared more for this, but great question for the mailbag. Lou from Charlotte. Lou. Love Lou from Charlotte. I think Lou and I have hung out and had a beer, but I'm not sure.
Jeez,
What, did you feed him the question, Brinson? Is that what's going on here? You're feeding the
I'm trying.
questions?
I know. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe we just talked on Twitter about having a beer in Charlotte. That's probably more like it. Assemble your best NFL coaching staff, starting QB and defensive captain, only using players who have not won a Super Bowl ring.
Players and coaches, I would imagine, because I didn't use a Super Bowl coach. Right.
Yeah, coach who has not won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. All right. What are you?
It would have been this would have been easy 6 months ago.
Actually, I think it's pretty easy now. Should we go around the horn? You want to start with coach? Where are we going to start?
Go around the horn. I get the first pick of coach.
So hold on before you start. So I did coach. I did offensive and defensive coordinator, then quarterback, and then defensive star. So go
Okay.
ahead.
So what do I do? Just the head coach, and you guys do we start with someone else on coordinators? What's going on?
No, you do coach. I'll do coach. Brinson will
Like
do.
my whole coaching staff?
Now, after you pick your coach, can I use a same coach, or can I have to do a different?
My list is already written down. So if you've written it down,
Well, I don't think we should
I'm
be.
definitely
All right.
prepared for this question.
The head coach of my team, the Breech Street Boys, who will be winning a Super Bowl, is none other than Miami of Ohio graduate Sean McVay.
That's a pretty good choice.
Boom.
that's not
And
bad.
he's also my offensive coordinator.
I went with Kyle Shanahan, who was also my offensive coordinator.
Boo.
Come on,
Boo.
Brinson.
Yeah, that Shanahan and McVay were the first two obvious choices. But since, in the interest of variation, now, this one's all right. Can I say Bruce Arians? Because he has a Super Bowl ring, but not as a head coach.
As a head coach, he can't be your offensive coordinator though, because he won it as offensive.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, if it was possible, I would probably just pair Shanahan and McVay. I mean, they worked together before.
Bruce Arians. I don't want to speak for you. You could do Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich as your OC.
I think I'd rather have Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan. No offense to Byron Leftwich.
They're already been drafted.
Oh, okay. Bill Belichick.
He may have won a Super Bowl.
I think those are the.
Hey, it's fine. I don't think that's
Frank Wright would be up there for me. I understand people are not as high on him as I am, but I would.
okay.
Right.
I do like Frank Reich. I don't know why.
I think.
What about Zach Taylor? Where would he be on your list?
30 or 31.
That's
He'd be coaching on
hate
Wednesday.
you.
Yeah, those. Like if he wins the Super Bowl with the Bengals, he would slide all the way up to 25.
He wouldn't be eligible for this list, though. It's only non-Super Bowl winning coaches, Brinson.
The only other answer I think that would work for me is. No, I think that's it. Actually.
All right. Do you want to start with offensive and defensive coordinator since we've already named our OCs?
Well, I would. Well, you just kept the same guys, OC. Like I would go Bruce Arians and one of Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay.
All right, you're going to do that. So who's your defensive coordinator?
Mike Zimmer.
Ooh, I took Todd Bowles.
That's good.
Oh, I was going to take Mike Zimmer also. I'm going to have a controversial answer here. I'm going to go with Mike Vrabel. He has a Super Bowl ring as a player, but not as a coach, and he's on my coaching staff, so I think he qualifies
As your DC?
as my DC.
All right, Breech, you want to start quarterbacks? What's that, Brinson?
No, I like the Todd Bowles call. That's a good one. Yeah, Breech, you start with quarterbacks.
My quarterback,
By the way, before you say it, I think there are 3 quarterbacks that should be pretty easy selections.
I feel bad going first because it's too easy. But my Sean McVay offense is going to have Lamar Jackson at quarterback, and I'm winning. You guys could just forfeit because I'm winning the Super Bowl.
So here's the question, because Lamar was my number 1. Does Kyle Shanahan want Deshaun, who's obviously in the mix, or does he want Dak?
I think he wants Dak. I think it was
But he wants Dak too to run that offense, right?
Dak running a Kyle Shanahan offense.
Or is Brinson using reverse psychology so that you pick Dak so that he can take Deshaun Watson for his team? Don't fall for it, Wilson.
I'll say this. I think I would rather have Deshaun Watson in a Bruce Arians system, but I would rather have Dak in a Kyle Shanahan. Dak in a Kyle Shanahan system would destroy the league.
Yeah, I think I'm going with Dak. I mean, you can't lose with any of these three.
I think those are the only three answers, right? Am I missing?
We're just taking.
I mean, Carson Wentz, I guess you could take because he doesn't have a Super Bowl ring.
All right.
Wallace took it in his hands and said, up and away.
Would anyone take Matt Ryan?
The sound drops, it messes it up. Just FYI.
Debo gets the old one finger salute.
Yeah.
Would
I
anyone
hope
take
Debo
Matt Ryan?
Oh.
No, not over those three. I don't think he's 30.
Phillip Rivers?
I was gonna say, Brinson, where's Phillip Rivers, man? Show some respect.
I'm not trying to get dunked on by suggesting Phillip Rivers over.
All right.
To check real quick on coaching. Zimmer was a defensive assistant with the Cowboys when they won in the 90s. Is he allowed to be?
Oh, no, he's not. Brinson cheated.
Oh, up high, down hard.
He was not the coordinator. He was I think, defensive backs coach and a couple other assistant.
I think that's a good point. He can't be your DC if he's. Also, I don't know that we could use coaches. I think it's weird to take a head coach. Like, would Mike Zimmer take this job offer? He wouldn't leave the Vikings for this job.
It's much like Mike Golick being asked to be on the Pick Six podcast.
It's a little bit like Mike Golick being asked to be on this podcast.
All right, Brinson, you're up with the defensive captain. Who do you want to go with?
So I can go with.
Who hasn't been to Super Bowl?
Guys, God, there's. I mean,
easy. I mean,
you think it's easy? Oh, it's Aaron Donald.
But I mean, yeah. Even if you went with an edge rusher,
yeah. I mean, I'm going to take Aaron Donald because he's the best player in football, independent of positions. So sure.
Aaron Donald's my number one. My math for number 2 and number 3 got a little interesting. I'm a homer it up, but I don't know if I want a safety or an edge rusher.
TJ or Minka?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a couple guys I would go with before TJ Watt personally, but he's great.
No, that's right. You could. I mean, yeah, you could take Daniil Hunter. I wouldn't take Von Miller at this point. You could
I'd probably go Joey Bosa or Myles Garrett.
Yeah, Myles Garrett was in the mix, but I felt like after he signed that crazy deal, I didn't want to pay him that money that no one knows where it's coming from.
Well, and also, like, are you doing it for this year? You know, I sort of thought it was like just a 1-year exercise because
1-year exercise, I'm taking Chandler Jones then if Aaron Donald's off the board.
That's fair. Well, and because like if it's a multi-year if you're building a franchise for the future, then Shanahan, McVay, and those quarterbacks we talked about are the only answers for those. You know, like you don't want to go get Bruce Arians for the long.
I'll go with TJ Watt just for homerism reasons.
Okay.
And Breech, you're taking Montez Perfect. Okay, next question.
Well, I would, except that he's not on a team right now, so I don't think he's eligible. Is he on a team right now?
He hasn't won a Super Bowl. I do know that.
That's because he almost won 5 with the Bengals, but then they didn't try in their playoff games, which you may not know. But yeah, Burfict's a free agent, Wilson, so he does not qualify. I am going to take – you know, you guys went defensive line pass rushers. I'm going with Stephon Gilmore. I want my shutdown corner. That's it. I'm taking Gilmore to go with my McVay.
Who's your defensive coordinator?
He doesn't have
Mike Vrabel.
Oh, you do. Right. Brinson doesn't have one.
Yeah, Brinson, his coordinator got fired. His coordinator wouldn't take the job.
Right. So wait. Mike Zimmer won a ring with the Cowboys, and as a coach. So he's disqualified as winning as a coach.
Like you can have Mike Zimmer be your defensive tackle if you want, Brinson.
Or I would say your head coach, but he can't be an assistant because he won Super Bowl as an assistant.
Questionable at best. Also, Gilmore won a Super Bowl ring. Dum.
I was going to see.
Wallace took it in his hands and said, up and away.
Devo got that one. I didn't even catch it.
Funny, we didn't even double check.
Wait, did Devo point it out to you, Brinson?
Yeah, most of the stuff that I realized, like I don't want to make me sound like dumber, but like a lot of the stuff I realized mid podcast is being spoon-fed.
Oh man, after you guys made fun of me the whole divisional rankings on Friday, I thought all weekend about how I could make you look silly.
Breech, just because I feel bad, I will point out Ryan did bring up Von Miller, who won Super Bowl MVP, so he would not have been.
Hey, I didn't take him.
Up high, straight down hard. Devo murdering kids.
Devo gets a new Twitter handle. He's just coming out throwing punches.
Yeah, like going Gilmore or Von Miller would be like if you decided to pick
Tyrann Mathieu.
He also has won. He's won a Super Bowl, Breech. You should know that.
Yeah. Yeah, you could have made a case that last year
Tyrann Mathieu
was the defensive player of the year. And I don't know that
Tyrann Mathieu.
would have won the Super Bowl MVP, but
Tyrann Mathieu.
had a really good game.
You should point out to people listening what that is because they may not know.
Well, presumably they realized that is John Breech butchering Tyrann Mathieu's last name by calling him Tyrann Mathieu. And then, in a previous podcast, Breech said that, and we just stopped, and we're like, whoa, I'm sorry, what? Okay, let's move on.
Wait, Brinson, Wilson, who'd you end up picking? Tyrann Mathieu.
TJ, I didn't take Tyrann Mathieu. I took TJ Watt. The thing is, we're going to play Tyrann Mathieu so often, we're going to forget how to say Tyrann Mathieu.
Well, no, my fear is that people listening on the podcast are going to think that's me saying it right now. Like Brinson going, oh, who did you actually pick? Then you play the audio. And then they think it's live instead of the fact that it is not live at all.
He cannot.
I'm going to take Chandler Jones. I'm going to spite Wilson and take his backup pick.
I highly doubt that they think you said
Tyrann Mathieu
14 times on this podcast.
All right. Chandler
People are
Jones.
going to be begging for the dunked on music by the time I get done with.
Tyrann Mathieu.
Okay, moving along. Sorry, I apologize. That was a great question. Oh, and irony since
Guys, Chandler Jones also won a Super Bowl. I just wanted you to point it out, and you didn't.
Oh, he did. Dang.
My God. You guys are off your game.
Take Daniil Hunter. He definitely did win a Super Bowl.
Cam Jordan.
Yeah, I'll take Cam Jordan. Thanks, Devo.
Did you just name 3 guys who won Super Bowls, Breech?
No, I was
Yes, he did.
You guys made these rules up, and I want. You're dunking on yourself. I was making you guys look silly for not pointing it out and just letting it go.
Right, so
that was the whole point.
You were. Are you kidding me? You're trying to claim that you were naming guys who won Super Bowls, and
I named a guy on the Patriots. Yes.
Your claim is that you were laying a trap for us.
Yes.
By naming Stephon Gilmore.
Yes.
Ryan.
No.
On a scale of 1 to 2 hour marathon, where does this rank on the Breech believability rankings?
8 hours. Like, there's no way that this was planned out. The Chandler Jones thing, sure, he laid that trap, and I was so done with the question, I was ready to move on.
No, he screwed up the Gilmore thing, and then so he just started naming other guys who'd won Super Bowls so he could act like it was a big trap. It's very smart. Moving along. Irony.
Irony alert. Oh, where's the irony alert?
Brinson butchers names. Love the show, especially listening to people getting dunked on. Brinson needs to dunk on himself for butchering the name of one of the best beer brewers in the country. Bissell Brothers is amazing, as are at least 24 other microbrews in the Portland, Maine area. How can you call yourself a beer connoisseur and not have spent some time in Portland? That's from Mark's Silverhammer via Apple Podcast. And you know what? He's not wrong. Ho, ho, ho! I dunked on myself. There you go. Maine Brewing Company is up there as well, I believe, in Portland, Maine. And as I said before, the Northeast has some of the best beers up there. You're right. I should have spent some time in Portland, Maine. Part of the problem is that my wife doesn't like the places that you go to get dank beer. Like I'm not going to be like, why do we go to Portland, Maine for the weekend? She's like, no, go to hell, buddy. We'll go to the beach. You can buy your beer down there, you clown. That's what you say to me. But yeah, that's on me. My good friend Nathan and his wife went to a wedding last summer that was I think, right outside Portland. So they went into Portland and spent a night first there and said it was just incredible, tons of beer. I was talking with a friend at the pool the other day. He does a fly fishing trip to Vermont, and they go to the store, Ryan, and when they're up there, he said they just buy a bunch of Heady Topper and Sip of Sunshine.
You know, it's funny. Before Simple Sunshine, not Simple Sunshine, what's it called?
Sip O Sunshine.
Yeah, Simple Sunshine. Before that came to Wegmans, it may be in your Wegmans now too. I'm not sure.
What?
But it's in our Wegmans in New York. But like 2 years ago, my buddy would drive to Vermont 3 hours away, go to the local convenience store to buy the Heady Topper and Sip O Sunshine, and they would only let you take out, I don't know, 12 beers at a time, 14 beers at a time, because it was such in high demand and they were only making so much of it.
Now I'm like on here looking at
to see if it's in your
Wegmans has a list of what beers I'm sure they have I actually, you know what? This is kind of depressing. I haven't been to Wegmans yet.
Jeez.
It's awesome, right?
Oh my gosh. The beer sections, it's actually really good, but the chocolate cake, I can't say this enough. And I was talking to Debo about this because there's a Wegmans near you in Pennsylvania, right, Debo?
Yeah, it's a big PA thing, Northeast.
Yeah, the chocolate cake. I know I asked you. I can't remember what you said.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's legit, right?
it's very good.
Yeah, so get that, Brinson, and get a bunch of cake and eat it all and drink it all in one night and see how you feel in the morning.
But also, let's not get too far away from the point of this question, and is that Brinson mispronounces everything. Our Polish friend, I think he was Polish, or it was the guy from Belgium, you butchered his name, and he tweeted at us to let me and Wilson know that we correctly pronounced it. This guy has an audio recording of me mispronouncing Honey Badger's name when he, in fact, is the ultimate mispronouncer of names.
That's MO, though. He finds something that you've done that he's done worse than, and he highlights the fact that you did it not as bad.
He regularly butchers names, and then uses me as his cover to make it look like he never messes up.
By the way, Brinson, you finally found Breech's weak spot. This is what makes him angry. Nothing else makes him angry except accusing him of saying the words wrong.
Can we get a cut of Brinson saying Bissell?
I can make that happen. I feel bad for you today, Breech. So
It's okay. I'm not.
What did I?
You called him Belly the first time.
And the reader, his last name was Warznick, and you pronounced it Warizniak. You added like 7 syllables. I didn't even think it was possible.
And you guys don't even know like what goes in the back end of this when we have a guest on, and like the panic level that it, like Debo and I, like Debo will drop pronunciation. Debo will find a video of the guests like doing a hit and be like, hey, like, so like Matt Mayako. Did I mispronounce it just then? I don't
know how to say his last name.
That's right.
But like, I know Matt. Like I've hung out with him at like owners meetings and talked to him for like, but like I sort of just have panic attacks and freak out that I'm going to mispronounce somebody's last name or say somebody's first name that the wrong. Like I get nervous about it, and I suck at pronouncing last names. And sometimes I just screw up easy words. Like, do you remember when I said How did I say pronounce Seoul, South Korea? How did I say it? Seoul.
We need a cut of that one.
You're hooked on phonics. That's the problem.
Literally, the only reason Brinson agreed to have us be his super friends is because our last names are easy to pronounce. That's a fun fact.
Also, fun fact: Mike Golick was going to do the show until Brinson called him Mike Golico.
Mike Golick. Mike Golick taking some unnecessary heat here.
Not heat.
I'm like flying through Wegmans.
Sorry, I brought it up. All right, let's do this last question because you won't believe this, but I have to use the bathroom.
And I have to. I searched Wegmans for sip of sunshine, and the only thing that came up were asparagus tips and hummus.
Interesting.
Okay, what's the last question?
Daily.
It's specifically for you.
Oh yeah. Daily football fix. Speaking of beer, wow. I should stop searching for beer and answer this question. Daily football fix from Hurricane_92, the Apple Podcast. Great podcast with a great cast of characters and guests. Best episodes might be when you get off on tangents, but love the daily football content. Will, 2 questions. 1, what are the 3 best Elysian beers? Whew. And 2, what is your favorite Phillip Rivers at NC State moment?
What's Elysian?
Elysian is I think they're in no, they're not in New York. Where are they?
Sounds light. Would I like it?
No, they're pretty hop heavy. Let's see.
A lot of IPA.
Seattle. They're out of Seattle. That's right. So Space Dust is here in North Carolina and has been for a while. Space Dust is awesome, and it will crunk you up. So highly recommend Space Dust.
Space Dust. Got that one written down. What else?
It's an IPA. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't tried a ton of Elysian stuff. So I am going to look up their beer and see if I can find – Dayglow is a session IPA, I believe. Very good. Or maybe just a regular IPA. But Dayglow is a very good IPA. Yeah, it's just regular. It has a tiger on the bottle shooting lasers, colored rainbow lasers out of its eyeballs. And
got pictures on Spanky Wegman's wall when he used to do the show.
Yeah. I think those are the only 2 that I've had. So I feel bad that I don't have a great way to break this down. But as I understand it, the Immortal IPA is really good. And I think the Dragon's Tooth Stout is supposed to be really good. So don't take those as gospel. But the Dayglow And the Space Dust is awesome. Highly recommend Space Dust. And it should be available pretty much everywhere because they're widely distributed. As far as Rivers at State moments go, and by the way, this shirt, do you know how old this shirt is?
2 weeks.
3 months.
21 years.
1999.
Still fits.
Older than Sean.
That's actually pretty impressive that it still fits. Got this. It is older than Sean. Got this shirt from Hillsborough Street Textbooks. My first day at NC State.
Brinson walking around fully geared out, ready for school.
You can save that as a gift. I see. This is sort of depressing. So the problem with naming the best moments of anything relating to NC State athletics is that if you are talking about something after 1985, it's pretty much just the Gator Bowl. We beat the crap out of Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl and Phillip Rivers' junior year.
Who was the Notre Dame quarterback?
It's like a year before Brady, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wish we'd slaughtered Brady in that game. That would have been awesome. And it's like, but it sucks because Brady's like, oh, cool, the Gator Bowl.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, you won the Gator Bowl. It's the 2003 Gator Bowl. It was down in Jacksonville, and actually, I'll tell a quick story before I have to do radio in 2 minutes.
Yeah, you got 2
I'll tell it fast. All right, so we all roll down there. And we get down there into the Alltel Stadium, which was, and NC State was 9-3 at that point in time, and ranked in the top 25. Tyrone Willingham was the quarterback or the head coach for Notre Dame at that point in time, and so we go into the Gator Bowl, and we're like, oh my God, you can buy liquor in these, like you can buy liquor in this stadium, like let's go. And it was New Year's Eve. We all partied. Everybody had it's junior year of college. And we won 28-6. Absolutely blitzkrieg Notre Dame. Is like the biggest bowl of the 3 years that we've been in school. And afterwards, we went down to the landing and partied with all like the state players who were out there afterwards. And like T.A. McClendon had run. I think he didn't run for. He had like 25 yards or something, like maybe even less than that. And he gotten banged up. And my pal Zeke was like slapping him on the back. He's like, man, I had a busted shoulder. And Zeke's like wailing on his back. And my grandmother and grandfather lived in Jacksonville. They're passed now, but they were living in Jacksonville. My mom was like, if you go down to that game, you have to go see your grandparents. You cannot go to Jacksonville and not go see your grandparents. So we get up on New Year's Day and very, very, very hungover.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, we got to go see Dosh and Daddy Pat. This is a problem. So it's me and AK because we were dating back at that point in time. And Zeke had ridden with us. Zeke gets in the car and he is so like still hungover and reeking of booze that we were like, I can't take this guy to see my grandparents. So we dropped him off at this gas station, like outside of Deerwood, which is the gated community they lived in. And we come back like an hour later and Zeke is sitting on the side of the curb with 2 empty Pizza Hut personal pan boxes. He has this pile of scratch-off lotto tickets he'd been playing, and he'd purchased 2 CDs at the record store. There's like no pre-cell phone. Like you don't have a cell phone. Like there's nothing to kill time like an iPhone or anything like that. Zeke's just sitting there playing lotto tickets for an hour and a half while we visit our grandparents.
And this is your favorite Phillip Rivers moment.
That's right. That's how low things have gotten. Okay, I got to go do radio. You guys got work to do. Great show. Talk to you tomorrow.